Hello, I'm happy to meet you today at our webinar where we will be discussing integration of the product approach into software development. Before we start, I propose you to join our MBA community in Telegram or join our Analyst Hub at LinkedIn. Here you can find useful resources for business analysis, find different tips and hints on how to do this or that business analysis related task, or find the latest information about upcoming meetings or webinars that Andersen will run in the nearest time. Please use these short links to join these communities or Analyst Hub. And very soon we will start. The main problem of the product approach is that it focuses on building software as available product that addresses user needs and adds business value. If we compare it against the project-oriented approach, the product approach focuses on the outcome rather than the output. And within this presentation, I want to discuss with you key elements of the product approach, key principles, company transformation, and tools and techniques which will help you to integrate the product approach into software development. In general, when we start a new product, we need to consider that the product exists at the intersection of three entities. One of them is person who has some need and who needs a useful solution to address this need. We also have a business side which is ready to implement a viable solution and sell it to the person, and technologies that will help to build a feasible solution that can fully address the customer's pain points and provide the way to address all the issues and problems that they may have. When you start a new product, you need to answer three simple questions. What important problems and jobs of the target audience do we solve? If you cannot properly answer this question, it means that it's a bit early for you to start working on this product because you do not fully understand what problems you will be addressing. And in this case, it's very good to perform some market and user research before diving into the product development. The next question is, what technologies and functionality do we need to address users' need? When you do not fully understand whether technologies will be feasible for addressing this or that problem, or what functionality to integrate in your product, again, get back to the previous step and try to find out the problems which the customer has and try to ideate on the solutions that will help to address these needs. And the last question, what will preserve the product viability in the market? So you should have a sustainable plan how you will be selling your product. So you will be selling it not just within 1 month, but for a long period of time, for example, for a couple of years or even thousands of years, while adapting the product to the changing market needs. If we will try to compare product versus project approach, so within the project approach, we have a defined and agreed scope of the project. So we have some scope of features which we need to deliver within our project, and we try to stick to this plan without minimizing the number of additional changes which our, let's say, stakeholders may need to introduce. We also have some limited resources, and here I mean time and budget. So we need to deliver the project within specific timelines and do not exceed the allocated budget for this project. We also usually have dedicated team for project implementation, which will no longer exist once the project is completed. Also, when we deal with change management, focus on minimization of changes because nobody wants to overpay with the project, and we will try to find out some trade-offs when implementing this or that feature just to keep within the budget and timelines. When we talk about success metrics of the project approach, it's usually completion on time and on budget. So if these things are met, so everything is fine. Nobody cares about something else. Usually, project destiny doesn't really matter, so nobody will even evaluate whether the project was successful or not. But in some situations, yeah, you may have some business metrics which the stakeholder may need to address. But again, the project destiny sometimes is not really monitored over time. Also, we focus on delivery of scope, but not value within our project. So we can integrate a lot of different features, and the end users will be using just a very small portion of these features, and nobody will be thinking about this. And of course, it's minimal synchronization with the market because sometimes when we develop a project, the situation in the market may greatly change, and if the scope was already agreed, it will be quite difficult for you to adapt to these changes with the market. The next, when we go with a product approach, usually we have undefined scope of the product because we start from something small, we start with some MVP of the product, but over time we enrich it with new features, we polish new features, refine the product architecture, and we introduce a lot of new functionalities. That is why for us the scope of the product is emerging, and we adapt it to the market and user needs. The next thing is iterative development with frequent releases, A/B testing, and feature prioritization. You can say that iterative development is also available in project approach. Yes, this is so, but usually it's not, let's say, real agile or Scrum, but something like iterative waterfall when you have a defined and agreed scope of features which you want to deliver, and within the next release we deliver them. With the product approach, we can deliver new features even every day, and we, besides delivery, we also test. We perform A/B testing to ensure that introduction of this or that feature or this or that change, it doesn't create additional problems for the product. It doesn't affect the conversion rates, or doesn't spoil something, or change the behavior of user flows radically within the product. And we also have the feature prioritization, which helps us to deliver features that has more value to end users. With the product approach, we also have adaptability and flexibility to market changes because we monitor all the current trends. We check what our user needs, and we try to adapt our product to these needs. So we keep in line with what the market and users need. Development of team expertise and customer development. So when we have a dedicated product team, we try to develop them as professionals, to nurture them as real specialists, to increase their level of knowledge and help them master new skills. And this team will also perform customer development when this team will be trying to identify the critical problems which customers have, what kind of necessity in this product or pain points they have. And in case of the product approach, we have some business metrics of success like lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, active user, NPS, revenue, or something like this. And if we talk about the product, so the destiny of the product really matters because the company earns money from the product, and without earning the money, there is not much sense in keeping this as a product. That's why it will be easier to deprecate it. And within the product approach, we focus on delivery of maximal value within the minimal scope of features. What it means is that we try to minimize the scope of features while we try to maximize the value from these features. In case of the project, nobody really cares whether the newly introduced feature is really needed. But within the product, each feature passes a thorough assessment, and the product team tries to identify whether it will deliver real value to end users or not. And continuous synchronization with the market, so we keep monitoring the latest trends and we try to adapt the product to these trends. If we take a look at the implementation of the project approach, everything usually starts from some technical task when we create some technical specification where we are applying the functional and non-functional requirements, where we try to identify business needs. After that, we proceed with the design of the solution when we create mockups and project architecture. Then we go with the development, then the testing phase. So sometimes it may be followed by the user acceptance testing, but in a great number of situations, this really doesn't occur. Then we release our product, and as a result, we have some working application that can perform this or that function, and users try to use this working application. The product approach radically differs from the project approach in the following. So first of all, we start from the problem definition. We try to have some problem statement for which we will be developing our new product. Once we have this problem statement, we proceed with customer and market research. We try to collect different kinds of evidence to ensure that customers and market need this product. If invalidated, we may get back to the initial problem definition phase and create some sort of a pivot to explore some other problems that we consider as a potential problem for new product creation. Once we have validated our problem with customer and market, we proceed with the development of product. Usually, we develop some sort of MVP of the product, so it has all the it has a minimal scope of features that will help the customer to address their problems, and so that we can validate that the problem is fully addressed, the customer likes this product and is ready to pay for it. Here we go with the release to the market. We may do some sort of the polishing and refinement of the product based on the collected feedback. And usually when the product is on the market, we start collecting feedback from different channels. And based on this feedback, we may also find out that customers like our product, but they're not ready to pay for it. And in this case, you may get back to the initial customer market research to identify whether you need to create a pivot or whether you need to change something within your product to start to make customers buy this product. Usually after feedback collection, you get a lot of different insights that help you to optimize and correct the product to deliver more value to end users, to better address their problems, and to cover all the pain points that they have. And then after that, we proceed with the selling and scaling phase where we sell our product and we try to expand to new markets and something like that. But in any case, the product approach greatly differs from the project approach when we explore the problem and whether it's really worth solving. When we talk about key elements of the product approach, I need to mention that it's customer centricity, iterative development, cross-functional collaboration, data-driven decision-making, outcome-focused, and value delivery. Exploring, for example, customer centricity, we need to understand that customer is placed at the center of all our processes and development efforts. We try to gather as many insights about user behavior and pain points with, for example, through customer development practices. Then we can also perform some customer segmentation through user personas or jobs to be done approach. The latter one is more preferable. Then we can create empathy maps to understand users' emotions, goals, and motivations. Creating empathy maps without prior customer development is really just waste of time. So you need to collect more information and insights before doing any empathy maps. And then you can also proceed to customer journey maps, where you will be identifying the customer path to the product usage and getting the value from the product. Anyway, empathy maps and customer journey maps, they will be evolving throughout the product development. Iterative development means that we split our development process into small, manageable cycles or iterations. Usually, for product development, you can use Scrum or Kanban. In general, Kanban is more let's say, adaptable to product needs, because it allows you to create flexible scope of features that the team will be developing without some strict timelines, and you can deliver these features once they are ready without just waiting for the release date, or once the whole increment within the iteration is ready. Also, you should not forget about feature prioritization, because you should consider user feedback when prioritizing features. As you remember, customer centricity. So in this case, customers, they have the greatest impact on your priorities. And based on this feedback, you can also estimate the business value of this or that feature, and then you can further prioritize these features or create some feature prioritization metrics if needed. And you should also perform regular sprint reviews to gather feedback and make adjustments. And it's very great to involve, again, your customers and end users into this sprint reviews, or at least to create some sort of the product committee, which can, or product advisor board, which can be comprised of both your customers and the users and your product team, where you can develop how the product evolves, what pain points occur, what slowdowns your customers notice within your product, or what other improvements they want to see. The next is cross-functional collaborations. This is when we create a product team which can act as an independent unit who can develop a product without involvement of other teams. Okay, here you should design a product team and invite people with different, let's say, expertise and experience. So it should be comprised of developers, designers, product managers, and domain experts. You can also involve some data analysts or AI engineers, but in general situations when you just need some specialist only as a part-time position, so you can just involve them on when it's needed. But once it becomes a full-time position, so just allocate an additional person into the product team. Within this team, they should have the open communication, and everyone should not be afraid to share their ideas and feedback. So everyone can express their opinions, and the team can discuss some concerns if they arise over time. And also try to use different types of collaborative tools to streamline this communication, so the team can collaborate without any problems and can solve problems on the fly. Data-driven decision-making. In this case, the product team should collect product usage analytics and do not use intuition or guesswork. Why it's needed? Because when we try to guess which feature to introduce in the next release, with a high percent of confidence, this feature will not be needed for end users. So in this case, you should use the data analytics to ensure what customers use, which features are more popular, which features deliver more value. You will have to integrate product usage analytics like Google Mixpanel, or additionally, you can also collect qualitative or quantitative feedback. And analysis of this data will give you insights into user behavior, preferences, and their pain points. So you can further use this information also for feature prioritization. Outcome focused, it means that we do not focus on the release of the product itself. We focus more on the outcome of the product value within the next release. So here you need to have, in general, clear objectives and key results for each product initiative. Then measuring success, you should consider different success metrics as user engagement, conversion rates, and revenue. If after introduction of new feature nothing happens, so it's a sign that the feature wasn't needed. Or maybe your users do not fully use it, or they cannot find it in the interface, so you need to explore why this happens. and find some solution to address this problem. The next one is continuous iteration and adjustment, because the product is an emerging organism, and in this case, you need to adapt it to the market and user needs. That's why the more feedback you will receive from your customers, and the more changes you will have to introduce in your product to address these new customer needs. Or you may have to explore other ways how to grow the product revenues. That's why for you it's vital to continuously collect feedback and monitor the product performance to identify some potential problems or some radical changes within your product that affect the conversion rates, for example. And of course, it's value delivery. So what does it mean? That you need to maximize the value while minimizing the delivery of new features. So you need to find the things which your customers really need. And you need to track growth of target metrics, because if you do not deliver value with new product, your target metrics will not be growing. And again, continuous optimization of the product, continuous optimization of onboarding flows, and if possible, automations of flows or integration of some AI solutions just to simplify execution of routine or trivial tasks using your product will greatly help you to increase the product value. When I talk about the benefits of the product approach, it's again enhanced user satisfaction, continuous improvement, increased business value, and adaptability. Proceeding with key principles, what you should consider: transparency and openness. So you need to create an environment where everyone is not afraid to share their opinion, where everyone is fully understands what's happening to your product, what challenges you have, what concerns you have. And usually it's very good when there is no hierarchy. So business executives and the product team, they can communicate and collaborate at the same level. So when the business executives do not order, when they collaborate. And it's quite difficult to implement in general in companies who are practicing the project approach for a long period of time. But in general, if you want to go with a product approach, so you will have to change the mindset, and the change of the mindset should happen from business executives first. What else? You should encourage feedback and ideas from all team members, so everyone should be able to share some information, insights that they get, maybe share some problems, some blockers which they experience. So the whole team will be able to resolve these problems, and they will be able to drive the product further. Empowerment and autonomy, that's a related thing. In this case, your product team should have enough power and autonomy to act as an independent unit, so they can create and innovate without any limitations or restrictions. What does it mean? Your business executives should grant authority to the product team to do what they consider as necessary in this or that period of time. In this case, it means that your business executives, they may have some objectives, and they need to discuss these objectives with the product team to align everyone and to discuss their feasibility. Because sometimes objectives may exceed, let's say, what the product team can deliver, and it's very, very necessary to discuss before the product team agrees on these objectives. And of course, you should encourage different types of experimentation and risk-taking. So the product team should not be afraid to make mistakes, because it's important to be able to fail fast and continue with new experiments and not just sit and wait for something else. And of course, the company should provide resources and support, so every team member from the product team can succeed and contribute to the overall success of the team and the product in general. Innovation and creativity, it means that you need to give the product team all the resources so they can innovate and create really remarkable solutions. So try to stimulate them, give them all the resources so they can run different brainstorming sessions, hackathons, or innovation workshops. You should also support the product team in different types of experimentation, and so that they can learn from their failures, and basis on these failures, they can get more insights on what is working, what is not working within the product, and so that they can also extend their expertise about the customer and user needs. Quality and excellence, it's one of the things which differs the product approach from the project approach, because when you develop a product, you should ensure that it is a high quality product, because if your product is full of different bugs and issues, the customers will highlight to churn after the first minutes of its usage, because bugs and issues, they also affect greatly the conversion rates, because when you cannot make a payment or when you cannot complete some task within the, for example, within some mobile application or within some SaaS service, as a customer, you will decide to stop using this product, and that's why you should to preserve the high level of quality within your products. So customers will be very happy with what they see and how your application acts. So here you need to, here the product team needs to use latest coding standards, best practices, and of course you should invest in integration and continuous deployment, and build the pipelines that do not require a lot of resources and support from other teams. So the product team can deliver everything fastly and without any issues. And scalability and flexibility, it's very important to mention that when you work on a product, you should consider that once you onboard your first 10 or 20 customers, you will identify the product market fit and you will proceed with the product growth. So your product should be ready for scaling. And in this case, if you do not use a proper architecture, if you have a lot of different dependencies, and let's say if you cannot ensure the high performance, it will be difficult for you to proceed with the product growing. That's why here it's very important to involve the architect who will be designing the architecture of the product, consider different factors, and design the solutions that will be easily scalable and will preserve a high level of performance over time and with increased user audience. And again, don't forget to refactor and optimize your code, because the more technical debt you will accumulate, the more problems you will get with delivering of new features. And this will also affect the time to market, because when you cannot deliver a new feature in the nearest time, your competitors can deliver something similar, and they will be able to get your customers, but we don't need. And collaboration and communication, the key aspect of any product team and of the product approach is collaboration and communication. So we do not, the product team should not act as a group of individuals. They should work as a single entity, a group which can deliver results, which can find a solution to any problem, and people who have all the essential tools and channels for proper communication, and they can easily discuss any problem. They can easily agree on some solution, and they also have the transparent way to share this information with other stakeholders and other teams when they need involvement or input from them. And we should also not forget about continuous learning and improving, because when you build a product team, it's very needed to continue increasing the expertise of your product team members, because product evolves, market evolves, customer needs are changing, and they need to collect more and more information. They need to dive deeper into real problems of customers. They need to dive into new technologies, how to address these pain points, and they should not be afraid to try something new. And you should also encourage experimentation, and so that this team can learn from failures. And one important thing for the product team and all the team members, these people should not be afraid to ask the question why. And at the very beginning, you will have to stimulate these people to ask why, and they shouldn't be afraid about this question, because sometimes when we start asking why, it may appear that in general we do not fully understand why we want to build this or that thing. We try to make some prediction, and based on this, you can collaborate and elaborate some better solution after discussion. So, proceeding with the company transformation, what you should consider. So we forget about the budget and timelines, and we evolve our product based on user needs and market changes. We no longer have predefined scope. We continuously collect feedback from the users, and based on this feedback, we identify problems, and then we design solutions that will address these problems. We focus not on output, but rather on outcome and continuous iteration, because the project is an emerging entity, and you will have to develop it over time before customers will see the real product value, and continuous optimizations will help you to grow the business itself and the product. And what else you should consider is that the project approach may have some sort of biased decision making, as different stakeholders may have different priorities and they may have different motivations. In case of the product approach, it's better to streamline the prioritization and have some data-driven or data-informed decision making. So in this case, everyone understands why you go with this or that feature and why you do not go with something else what you already have in the product roadmap. And the product team should not be afraid to say no to some unnecessary features if, for example, they do not see any evidence that the customers or users need this as a feature. So regarding strategies for implementation, you should consider product ownership. So in this case, you may have even two roles. One of them is product manager, who will be focusing on the strategy and scope of features and problems, and the product owner, who will be focused on the implementation and technical part of the product. Then you should consider agile methodologies, but not iterative waterfall, which a lot of companies name as Scrum, but something on what is really adaptable, flexible, and what allows you to deliver features in the nearest time and does not increase the time to market. What else you should consider? Continuous feedback loops. It means that the product team should have sufficient feedback collection channels where customers can collect all this information, where customers can submit their feedback on the product, and the product team can collect this information, review it, and find insights within this information. Also, you should have cross-functional teams, because without cross-functional teams, it will be difficult to develop a product when several teams will be collaborating, or when you will need input from some specific specialist or professional, but this person can be busy with some other projects, and that's why it's very good that the product team is a cross-functional team and can address everything within the scope of the team. And again, about success metrics, so you do not focus on time and budget, you focus on business metrics like revenue, what you earn, active users, adoption of new features, and value from these features. Regarding implementation challenges that you may encounter, first of all, it's the resistance to change. So when you switch to something new, not everyone will be happy to change the predefined approaches to work. And a lot of, let's say, stakeholders, business executives, may not like to change something within the existing company processes. That's why you may encounter some resistance to change. That's why when you introduce a product approach, it's vital to have some people who will be supporting. These people should have some sort of entrepreneur mindset and should be open to any sorts of innovations and should be ready to drive the product approach through the whole company from top to the bottom. Balancing short-term and long-term. When you introduce a product approach, you may have some sort of temptation to focus on solving some minor things, but you should try to find a balance between long-term goals and short-term goals. What does it mean? For example, when you have a lot of bugs and you will decide to spend some time on fixing them, in this case, you will sacrifice some long-term goals with delivery of new features. So in this case, you should try to optimize this and maybe introduce some sort of the bucketing system when you will continuously fixing some bugs and issues, but without sacrificing time on delivering new features. And aligning diverse stakeholder expectations. Again, when you build the product, you should not forget about customers because they are the main driver for your product. And you should consider them. But you may also have some business stakeholders who may have different points of views, and that's why you need to align different stakeholder groups and focus them on things that really matter, that will help you to grow your product and drive it to the market. Regarding introduction trade-offs that you may encounter, it's integration efforts. So changing from the project approach to the product approach will require some time. It will not be just 1 week or 2 weeks. It will require something around 3 or 6 months before the company will be having all the necessary abilities and skills to use the product approach. And not every company is ready to spend so much time. The other problem and trade-off here is the delivery issues that start. So when you switch to something new, you will encounter problems with the delivery. You will have some delays. Some releases may not be very successful. Anyway, it is not a problem, and you need to identify all the current issues and try to fix them as soon as possible. So with the next releases, this problem will no longer persist. And the mindset transformation, that's always a very tricky point because you cannot just say we go with the product approach, but stick with the project approach. In this case, everyone within the team first and within the business executives, they should understand why they need, what benefits the product approach delivers, and why there is no sense in continuing with the project approach. And once everyone is ready to transform their mindset, you can proceed with integration of the product approach. Otherwise, in general, nothing good will happen over time, because you will be trying to implement product approach by using the project approach techniques, and the results will not be radically changing for the company. And proceeding to the last section here, what tools and techniques can you use for implementation of the product approach? So here we may have lean product management, custom development, jobs to be done, Hades cycles, design thinking, A/B testing, scenario planning, lean canvas, and pilot metrics. Let's just go through each tool or technique and see how it can help. So first of all, it's lean product management. That's one of the critical points which product team should start with first. This approach helps you to understand that you do not need to implement everything, that you need to focus only on just specific things that deliver value, that you always have limited resources. That's why it's important to prioritize and focus on efficiency. And you need to keep in mind what customer needs rather than try to envision what they need. And also lean product management, it focuses on waste reductions and on collection feedback from customers before doing anything. So if you are not sure about delivery this is a feature, go and ask your customers, or just try to delay to get more insights and information from customers. What is, let's say, when we touch the cons, it will need a bit of time before everyone will try to understand this framework and before it will be adapted within the company and the product team. And it also requires a great change in the mindset. So not everyone is ready to change to these changes at once. That's why it will be it may require a bit of time before, let's say, business executives and the team will align on this lean approach. Lean Canvas, it's a one-page business modeling tool that can help you to answer some critical questions before you even start with the development of the product. So in this case, it looks like this. We define the problem, why we want to develop our problem, then we describe the solution, key metrics, which will help us to understand the success or failure, unique value proposition, unfair advantage, what will differentiate us from our competitors, channels for distribution, customer segments, and early adopters who will start using our product at the very start. Cost structure and revenue stream. By filling out this lean canvas, you can get a better understanding whether you fully understand how you will be developing your product, what problems you will address, how you will earn money, and whether these problems really worth exploring and implementation. Customer development, that's a methodology which helps you to validate customer needs and problems even before developing the real product. So you need to run different interviews with your customers and try to identify what worries them, what problems they have, what pain points they want to address, whether they try to address. Usually you need to discuss their past experience rather than touching the future or whether they are ready to pay for your product. That's why in this case, you can get a better understanding of what customers need, of what problems they have, and how your solution can address this problem. In general, with the customer development, you can find the product market fit. And what you should consider that the usage of custom development will require some time, will require a lot of time in general for organize interviews, collect this information, then summarize. Nowadays, with different AI tools, this summarization can be done faster, but in general, it will be difficult to scale this process of interviewing, especially if you are the only person who is interviewing customers and users. So it will be difficult for you to collect, let's say, 100 or 200 of interviews. So in this case, with customer development, you will be focusing on something like around 20 interviews to ensure that the problems which your customers bring, they are similar, and whether the same things are mentioned from interview to interview. Jobs to be done, that's another framework which can help you to identify different task jobs where customers hire your product. And instead of focusing on features, we try to identify motivations and desired outcomes of our customers. With this approach, you can perform some additional segmentation of your product, and it can help you just to better understand what jobs your customers want to satisfy and how your product can help to satisfy these jobs. Also, sometimes you may encounter problems with interpretation of what your customers or users tell you. And again, sometimes it may be a bit difficult to find, to find some rational points in what customers share with you, but in general, with time and experience, you will be able to see these insights and better understand jobs which customers try to accomplish. The next one is Heidi cycle. So it's hypothesis, action, data, insight. How it looks: you make your hypothesis, then you perform some sort of an action, usually some sort of an experiment to validate this hypothesis. You collect data over time. Based on this data, you make a conclusion whether it was successful, so you get an insight, and then you repeat this cycle over time. So it allows you to run different type of experiments to collect more information and to get a better understanding of what customers really need and how you can deliver what they need. A/B testing, that's another method which you can use, but again, you should consider that it can be quite expensive if you will be developing two variations of the same feature. So that's why I use it more for optimization of existing flows rather than for introduction of new features, especially if features are quite large. And what you should consider here is that the most precise way to understand that this or that feature is worth implementation, and it will be quite difficult for you to implement it in B2G and B2B products, but in B2C products you shouldn't have such problems because your user audience should be quite enough. But again, here you might have some sort of misinterpretation of results, or when the A/B test is not properly run. That's why you should be quite careful when doing it, because you may get some false insights. And the next approach or technique which you can use is scenario planning. This is more for strategic planning method. So in this case, you try to envision what will happen in the future, what problems may arise, how you can respond to these problems. And based on this, you create a scenario plan with different types of responses to this or that problem. And when some problem comes to your radar, so you can just use this scenario plan to address it. In this case, it will be a bit tricky for an experienced team to use this technique, but in general, you will have to make several iterations of this scenario plan before you will get something feasible and something what you can use in future. What you should consider that this scenario plan is just your anticipation, so it may happen or it may not happen, but if it happens, you will have some sort of ready-to-use actions, and you will be able to faster respond to this or that problem. But again, in some situations, you may not encounter some scenarios. That's why try to keep it as close to the reality as possible. And pirate metrics. So I assume that you already heard about something like this. So in this case, you split the customer path into separate stages, or you split the customer life cycle, and you focus on optimizations for each stage, and you try to grow conversion rates from stage to stage. So the more people come into the funnel, the better results you will get at the end. What you should consider here is that it provides a very good overview, but sometimes it may be difficult to fully implement it. But again, if you have enough resources and you have enough tools, it will be quite easy for you to implement, and you will be able to see how customers behave at each stage, and you will be able to introduce point-wise changes for each stage and increase conversion rates when going through this pipeline. And the next one is design thinking. So probably some of you have already heard about it, but in general, it's a very cool approach that you can use. But again, it may be useless if you do not have prior feedback from customers or potential customers or users about the product, and you will try to anticipate everything yourself without just having prior research information about your user audience. What does it mean? First of all, we emphasize different problems which our customers want to solve. Then we define them, and we create some sort of ideas how we want to address this as a problem, and we create some prototypes which we further test and validate with potential customers or users. During this testing, we may find some problems, so we will have to refactor our prototypes, or we may have to think about additional ideas how to. Or we may also find that customers do not have this problem, so we will have to define it, and we may also get back to the emphasis stage. What is worth mentioning about design thinking is that it requires a lot of time, and it's quite an expensive approach, so that not everyone is ready to use it. But again, if you have enough insights and your, let's say, your product team is ready to invest something like 1 or 2 weeks of their time into this approach, you can try to go with design thinking and develop the products that will really match problems of your customers. But again, without prior knowledge about the user audience, the design thinking may provide some false positive information, and you may not get what you really want. Now it's time for Q&A session, so I will go through the list of your questions, and while I will be answering, please share your feedback and subscribe to our link channel and Telegram channel. 1 second, and we'll go through our questions. Okay, so regarding slides, I assume we will post this presentation within our LinkedIn channel. While constantly fighting. Okay, how to focus on a product approach while constantly fighting fires. In general, first of all, understanding that we need to stop fighting with fires and introduce a product approach should come from the top management of the company. If this doesn't happen, so from, let's say, from the position of a business analyst, product owner, or product manager, it will be quite difficult to explain the necessity in this. But again, you can try to start from something small, and you can also try to explain that these fires come because you do not consider a lot of factors when building products, that you do not have the proper feature prioritization, that you try to satisfy all the customers, that you do not segment your customers. And based on this information, you should start from, let's say, your manager, then go one level up, and maybe over time, this may deliver some results. You can also try to integrate some parts of the product approach, and based on this, you can show whether you can deliver results with the product approach or not, and maybe over time, so your top management will better understand that, yeah, maybe it's time to try something new. Hope that it answers. How can you continue to add value as a product manager while spending a lot of time in meetings? So, when you spend a lot of time in meetings with whom? You should spend a lot of time in meetings with customers, but not with internal teams. In general, if you have a lot of meetings, it means that something is not really good. You do not have, maybe you do not have alignment of all the teams, of all the stakeholders of what is going on. That's why you try to clarify all these priorities, changes, and something like this. You may also have problems maybe in the technology or development side of the product. So in this case, you need to align why we are developing this in this way, why we use this architecture, what problems we have, why these problems persist. So in this case, you need to make a step back and check what kind of problems and why you go to this meeting. So in this case, when you decrease the number of meetings, you will have more time to, let's say, to have more interviews with customers and to spend more time on trying on trying to identify potential features and product value. That's why start from the problem, why you have so many meetings, and once you understand this problem, you will be able to address it. Again, if the product team wants to address. If nobody wants, so you will go to these meetings and you will be just wasting your time discussing the same things. How does the process of sunsetting a product differ when managed under product approach versus a project approach? When we meet sunsetting, what do you mean as a sunsetting? Decline or? Okay, I will try to answer based on what I understand. If you, Nikita, means a decline phase, so in this case, with a project approach, you just deprecate the project because nobody further needs it. In case of the product approach, you can try to identify whether you can reimagine the existing project. Maybe you can try to find other customers who may need something else, but what is partially covered by your product. You may also explore the market for some additional things. In this case, you may create some sort of a pivot of the current product and give it a second life in the market. But again, it just depends. Because if you see that the market doesn't need this product, so okay, it's time to deprecate it. But if you can give a chance, why not to explore the market and user needs? Maybe you can find some additional opportunities for your product. How do you navigate between adapting to user feedback and maintaining focus on your long-term product vision? And at what point is it better to set early feedback aside? How do you navigate between adapting to user feedback and maintaining focus? Set early feedback aside. Okay, if we mean user feedback and focus on our long-term product vision. So first of all, you should not forget that customers are paying to you, and what they request usually may help you to earn money. But again, if you have a product vision and let's say customer feedback greatly differs from what you have in your product vision, it's better to explore what your customers need and maybe discuss even the roadmap with your customers. In some situations, let's say we may not fully understand, especially after the product launch, what customers really want. And in this case, having customer interviews, building these feedback loops will help you to get more information. Also, you can also try to experiment with new features without even implementing them, creating some fake features within your product, or maybe creating variations on the landing page of the product and see what features maybe drive more traffic, to see what features drive more, let's say, conversions in general. What I mean is that people will just click to request this feature. You can also try to maybe develop the product advisory board. Again, that's a special committee when you onboard new customer. You may invite them to this product advisory board, and where you can discuss what is happening within your product, whether they like, what challenges, what problems this or that release introduces, what pain points are not fully covered. And in this case, you can try to discuss information with them. What else? About long term, again, when we create a product vision, sometimes we do not have enough information. And that is why product vision is also an emerging document which evolves over time. Once we get more information, we will have to refine our product vision as well as our product strategy. That's why try to be open to challenges that customers bring to you and try to identify why they need. In case if you are focusing on fixing the or implementing features which do not fully align with your product vision. So in this case, maybe you can also say no to your customers and try to explain why you are saying no. And hope this answers, but in general, it just depends on a great number of factors. That's why based on this information and based on having some background, it will be easier to answer what to do with this. So that's in particular, but in general, it's good to balance. Maybe you can also use some bucketed systems, so you focus half of your efforts on what you have in your product vision and your product roadmap. And for example, you spend 20% of time on minor optimizations, minor changes within the product based on the customer feedback. So can you provide any tips and advice on how to deal with frequent changes in priorities into the roadmap from stakeholders? Unfortunately, it just depends on the company where you work. So in many cases, if you have the constant priority changes, for example, new week brings new priorities, it means that you do not have proper prioritization technique implemented within the company. That's why any stakeholder can bring some ideas, and based on their power and based on their power within the company, they can influence these priorities. You as a product manager, product owner, you can introduce some prioritization techniques like RISE, ICE, or maybe you develop some your own framework for this prioritization. And in this case, every product idea which comes into the pipeline, it will pass the initial assessment where you will perform this prioritization. And based on these priorities, all the stakeholders should be aligned and fully understand why this feature will not be implemented at all and why this feature will be delayed, because you have something with higher priorities based on the evidence that you have and based on the customer feedback that you have. Hope that this answers your question. Does it describe product approach flow applied to product support in the same way? So regarding the product support, okay, when you here it's important to understand whether this product support happens after several releases of the product, or whether the product is at the support stage when we plan to deprecate it over time, but we just want to earn a bit of money while we haven't killed it yet. So in general, I do not see any obstacles in integrating the product approach for product support, because you can still use the same techniques. You can perform the custom development, you can introduce feature prioritization, you can explore what customer needs, and you can deliver more product value over time. That's why regarding the specifics, frankly speaking, I do not see something at this point of time, but maybe, let's say, within the context of a specific product, it will be there will be some critical things that will require some changes in our response or in the approaches that we will use as a product. But again, it just depends on the situation with the product and what we want to get from it. So what is the best background for a product manager, and why don't you have any product manager vacancies on Andersen website? What is the best background? So regarding the vacancies about product manager, I assume they will appear. So it's some sort of a spoiler. I hope that nobody will kill me because of the spoiler, but Andersen plans to introduce these vacancies and will hire probably in several months product managers for this. Regarding the background for a product manager in general, the best background is when you were an entrepreneur. So when you try to act on your own, when you know how to take risks, how to find opportunities and how to address these opportunities and see customer pain points. And this entrepreneur mindset will greatly help you. In general, if you have this mindset, no matter from which position you will transition to the product manager, but in general, having some prior product experience like a business analyst or product owner will help you to master management of digital products. But again, the entrepreneur mindset is a must-have in this case. What is your take on pod approach? Elizaveta, could you please clarify what you mean as pod? You mean, okay. So regarding pod approach, difficult to say how to answer your question. What is your take? Could you please, Elizaveta, clarify what kind of problem or concern you have? Because I do not fully understand your question, sorry. Okay, just we'll try to answer how I understand the question. So if we talk about the pod as an independent unit and the cross-functional team, I assume their structure looks quite good. So they can be working on a product because they have all the necessary roles. That's why I do not see any problems with the pod approach. But again, I do not fully understand your question. That's why, sorry, I may misinterpret something. Okay, looks like we do not have more questions. Okay, just finishing my presentation, I want to know that implementation of the product approach is time-consuming, but worth doing in the long run. That's why don't be afraid to start something new, and it will pay you back. Okay, thanks everyone for joining our webinar. I hope that you find something new. If you have other questions, feel free to drop your questions in our LinkedIn community, so I will take a look and will try to answer them as well. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. See you at next webinars. Bye-bye.